Hello and good afternoon or good evening or good morning, depending on the time and where you are in the world. My name is Ben. I obviously work for Ideal Homes over in the Costa Blanca. And I'm here to kind of give you a bit of an idea as to how rentals works and also what you need to keep in mind and what you need to do in order to buy a property for rental. Now, I know rental might not be something for everyone. A lot of people want to buy a property here and not rent it, maybe just let family and friends use it when it's not being occupied. But, say, for instance, you've got community fees and utility costs and things of that nature. Sometimes renting the property could help offset those costs and allow the property to wash its own face and enable you to have a cheaper investment, something that's still going to give you the same plus points, but not for the same price point. So we're going to first of all go through some key points regarding rentals. We're also going to talk about how to actually acquire the right documentation to rent a property. Then we're going to go through a few examples of properties that would be good for rentals using the knowledge that we've acquired. And then we're going to look at taxation, things like how much rental yield could be possible in certain areas, etc. Again, what I'm going to have to do is be relatively vague, considering that the Costa Blanca is a vast span of land and different properties will rent for different amounts in different locations. But hopefully this will give you a nice foundation and a good platform doing your research moving forward. Will give you as much, hopefully education into whether or not it's going to be viable. And also if it's something that if you do want to go through, we can also talk on a one-to-one basis, making sure that you select the right properties. So first things first is I've split the rental sort of tips, if you like, into sort of four basic categories. The first category is the location. The location is obviously important and is paramount usually when finding a property abroad for rental. You want to make sure that it's close to shops, bars and restaurants. Also the airport. Now, let's look at how we feel about when we go on holiday. Most of the time, we do not want a terribly excessive drive from the airport to actually get to our rental property. Most people will tolerate about an hour. If you're on holiday for a week, the last thing you want to do is spend 2 to 2.5 hours traveling in an area or in a country you're not quite sure of to actually get to your rental property. So always make sure that your property is relatively close to an airport. Again, it doesn't have to be an hour, but using maybe half an hour to an hour and a half is a nice sort of time scale to keep in mind. Also, you want to have as many attractions and as many features that appeal to as many people as possible. So it's not only golf courses. Obviously, the Costa del Sol and the Costa Blanca and various parts of Spain are well renowned for their golf courses. But if you're not a golfer and if you're coming over here on holiday and you're a family of 4, family of 5 with small children, what's there to do for small children? You might not want to spend all the time on the beach. You might want to actually go and explore, go and walking or hiking trails, maybe even do some water sports like some kite surfing, some surfing. You may want to visit local museums, soak up the history and the general ambience of the area. So what's there to do for people? And this is very, very important because this will ensure that you get repeat business. If people have a pleasurable experience first time round, they're more than likely to come back and visit in the future. Also, are there things like disabled access within the property or the complex of where you're going to buy? You don't want to isolate any sector of the population by not having things like lifts, by not having, maybe if the property's on the ground floor, if there's large numbers or high steps where clients will struggle to actually acquire and get into the property, that's going to obviously offset a certain population, a certain number of the population. So you don't really want to do that if you can help it. Obviously, it's down to the structure of the property. But if you can bear that in mind, that could ensure a couple of extra rentals per month, which could make all the difference. Also, the competition in the area due to its location. If you're renting a property and there's 4 other complexes which have equally the same amenities, they have the same facilities, are you then going to be in competition with 60, 70 units all struggling to gain clientele, which means that you're going to be forcing your prices down. One person may charge €5 less per day, then the one person tries to beat that by charging €10 less, so on and so forth. And sooner or later, your properties are not being rented at the market value. So also keep the supply and demand factor in mind as well. Now, the second point is the condition of the property. Now, the more I look at rental portals, the more I see that the modern property is what people are after. They're looking for clean lines, contemporary, easy to maintain, easy to clean. They're also wanting all the facilities as well. So if you're going for a rental property in mind, also keep in mind things like, does it have a hairdryer? You know, this could be a deal breaker for a lot of people. I once had a client who was mortified that she couldn't watch her soaps. She was very into her EastEnders and her Coronation Street, and because she didn't have English TV, she was distraught, you know. So even things like TV services have to be taken into consideration. Most importantly, and obviously how we're all connecting now, is the internet. Does the property have an internet connection? And if so, what speed? Can people get in contact with their family and friends back home? Again, these little small touches will make all the difference and will ensure repeat business moving forward. One of the other things that you will also have to keep in mind is, are you promoting your unique selling points of your property? Are you promoting the fact it has sea views? Are you promoting the fact that it has a bathtub? You know, for some people, a bathtub is very important and is a unique selling point. Are you promoting it has access to a rooftop solarium? Are you promoting the fact that it's close to all amenities within walking distance? So again, these are things to keep in mind when you're sort of looking at the condition of the property and the marketability of the property as well. Keep your expectations realistic. You will hear lots of figures banded around. You know, you can rent your property for, let's say, I don't know, 16 to 24 weeks in a year. And if you have a set cost in mind and that cost is needed to help cover your overheads, be realistic with those expectations. If, let's say, for instance, you can rent for 26 weeks of the year, what if you had a bad year? What if it was just 20 weeks of the year? Would that still cover your overheads? If you had a fantastic year and you rented for 30 weeks in that year, don't use that as your rule of thumb moving forward. Realistic with your expectations works both ways. So don't always expect your first year to be your best year. In fact, in 90% of the rental properties and the cases, the first year is usually the worst year. Unless the property or the area has been heavily marketed prior, you'll find that your repeat business will come after year 1, year 2, year 3. It's all about word of mouth. It's all about the service that you can offer with the property. And that will ensure that your rental yield will go up on a natural sort of ergonomic way, sort of year in, year out. Calculate your ongoing costs carefully. So things like your utility bills, things like your cleaning costs. I'll hit on a lot of this a little bit later in the conversation. Your council tax, your community fees, all of these things have to be calculated carefully and also taken into consideration price differences. So some years things may go up in cost, some years things may go down in cost. So keep a spreadsheet and obviously do as if you were conducting a business, keep records and really sort of take into control what your ongoing and outgoings will be, your ingoings and outgoings will be. The last point is choose a good management company. Now, over here in Spain, the management companies work in a whole multitude of different ways. Some companies will actually just market the property for you and take a percentage, which will then leave you to organize things like cleaning, collection of clients, etc., etc. And again, some companies will do everything for you, which is the company to work with, a company that will market the property for you on the various portals, a company that can arrange the cleaning before each tenant arrives, and ideally a company that will meet your clients, preferably at the airport, who can then drive your clients directly to the property. All of these things help with the client feeling relaxed when they get to the property, and ultimately, good news spreads. They will then either tell a friend, tell a family member, and it will be your property that they will recommend in the future. So those are my 4 basic tips in terms of acquiring a property for rentals. And Points 1 and 2, again, if you really sort of look at points 1 and 2 and focus on those, hopefully that will give you a great referral trend and allow your property to grow without you having to do much at all. So what do you need to do to actually make a property legal for rentals here? The first thing you need is a tourist license. A tourist license basically says that your property is fit for renting to the general public. So it's very, very clear as to what it means, but how do you acquire it? First things you need to do is you need to go to the town hall and you need to actually apply for something called, well, directly translated from Spanish to English is an urban compatibility that allows touristic use. Once you apply for that form, you have to actually, to apply for that form, you actually have to fill in a form which is a statement regarding touristic homes. So it's a very simple process to do. And then from there, you will actually be issued with a license number, a location code, and also a category. Now, I will just, if I can here, just give me 2 moments. I just need to share my screen with you all. Okay, so hopefully my screen is sharing. Just give me a thumbs up here if that looks okay. Brilliant. So let's just scroll to the top here. Now, in order for you to actually get your category, let me just make this bigger, just bear with me. Okay, just give me 2 moments. Okay, so the first thing you need, as you can see here, is you have your amenities that should be included in each type of property. So as you can see here, you've got various subtexts there, which are things like car park, a safe, garden space, toilet area, obviously a toilet and bathroom area, hot water, access to hot water, telephone and internet, etc. And you can see from standard to Primera to Superior. So basically standard, your first and your Superior. So you can see here, you've got various categories. Now, what you would do is obviously when looking at a property, you would try to make sure that you can try and tick as many of these as possible. Now, obviously, if your property falls into the Superior, that's going to allow you to charge more for your property on a daily rate. You've then got the internal, so your required internal equipment. So these are things like air conditioning in bedrooms, heating in the bedroom and living space, is it furnished, does it have a fridge, etc., as you can see. And again, it works in exactly the same principle. You have standard, first and superior, and then you've got the minimum size of individual rooms, again, falling into 3 different categories. So once these categories, and I'll just scroll to the top just so that you can have a look again, but if anybody does need a copy of this, my email address is just under my face there. Send me an email and I'll be more than happy to send this directly to you. So as you can see, there's lots of different categories, well, 3 different categories in terms of its class, and then you've got lots of subcontexts there as well. So it's done on a score basis, and dependent on how you score and dependent on where you fall, you will be then issued with a category. And people will obviously see that category and know that they're going to be going for something which is of a high standard, which is quite good because then there's no surprises. What it does mean, however, is that if you are going for a new build property, or you're going for something that's been built within the last, say, 5 to 10 years at the very most, a lot of those will be ticked, and you can then go for somewhere in the region of the sort of first to the superior category. So always keep that in mind as well. So what we're going to do now is, using all of that information, we're going to look at an example property. I'll just share my screen again, bear with me. Okay, so just again, Tia, if you can just give me a thumbs up that that's all okay. Fantastic. So this is a property we have. We've been marketing for this property for quite some time. Just to give you a bit of background information on this property. Oasis Beach, and they have quite a few different Oasis beaches in and around the Costa Blanca. This is Oasis Beach 8, and each one is very similar in its design, very similar in its presentation. But this one I do feel is in a fantastic location, and It's one that I feel if you are looking at a property for yourself as a holiday home and also for rentals, definitely one to consider. So we will go into its location. Let me just see if that hopefully should be showing a map now. So you will see from the airport down to the property, it's a roughly around about a half an hour drive. So it's not far at all. You have got a bus route, but it's a half an hour, 40-minute drive if you're taking the M340. But on the M332, it's a half an hour drive, which is pretty reasonable to expect. So going back into the property itself, we know it's near the airport, so that's one plus point. Just to give you a bit of background on the property in terms of its location, while I'm scrolling through the pictures, I can let you know that there's 3 golf courses close by. One is La Marquesa, Vista Bella, and a little further out is Las Colinas. So there's 3 well-known golf courses. You've also got a blue flag beach, which is Moncayo Beach. And you've also got the Paseo Maritimo, which is very, very, very popular during the summer. There's a lot of people that travel from all over to actually go to the beach and the Paseo Maritimo. You've got a museum, which is the Museo Arqueológico de Guatemala, which is known as MAG for short. And you've also got Reina Sofia Park, which has ducks, peacocks, terrapins. It's great for kids. If you just wanted to while away a Sunday or a quiet afternoon looking at some nature and let the kids do some exploring in a gated area, it's absolutely brilliant. And then you've also got Alfonso Park, which is for walking, hiking, a lot of forestry, a lot of nature, a lot of natural terrain for you to explore. So the area itself is in a very popular location of Spain. And not only have you got the beaches, the golf, the shops, the bars, and the restaurants, you're also based in a very quiet location of Guatemala. So you're not in the hustle and bustle of it. You're within a short stone's throw away from it, but you're not in the middle of it. So, on an evening, you want to just relax on a solarium with a bottle of wine, you absolutely can. And you can actually take in and soak up the views. So you can see the property is very, very modern in its presentation. There are a few different furniture packages that you can select, all of which complement the architecture very, very well indeed. So this one is actually using a light wood. You have the option of a dark wood as well, but my favorite is the light wood. It gives more of a kind of beach house effect. But you've got electric shutters. You've got glass sliding doors in the shower area, frosted, which saves space. And you've got spotlights. You've got absolutely everything you would expect to have. So it's a very, very modern property, contemporary in design. And I mean, if you saw this on let's say Airbnb, and you were looking at photos of this nature for a property to rent, I think most people will be hard pushed to say that they don't like what they're seeing. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. These are the views you can expect from the property. Now, this property not only has access to obviously a pool, but it has a spa facility as well. And also it has crazy golf, which is quite good fun. It's got a kids park area as well. So not only is it suited for families, it's suited for couples as well. And it's a very well constructed unit indeed. So just wanted to give you an idea as to what does a rental property look like. Let's have a look at the spec of the property. So we're looking at a 92-meter squared property. As I said, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. We know it's in Guatemala and in an area called El Raso, and it is very close to everything that you would expect to have while you're on holiday. So access to La Mata, which has a fantastic array of beaches and restaurants, and also you've got, as I say, the golf and the walking trails and the museum. So there's lots to see and do. And if you have, or you've rented a car whilst you're in this area, you've got the rest of Spain to enjoy, but you've got a very nice base using this property. Now, this is Oasis Beach. Let's have a look at an Oasis Beach in El Raso, just to give you an idea. Now, I know that this property, and I'll go through some rental figures, but I know that this property is rented for the summer. There we go, rented for the summer. We are looking at in and around about, say, we're looking at about 120 euros a day. Now that's normal in normal market conditions. Now let's bear in mind, we are just coming, or hopefully out of the whole COVID-19 situation, and in which case they've lowered their prices to 80 euros a day. But I'm sure you'll agree, even at 80 euros a day, that can generate a quite healthy income, considering that the rental season is, start of June, mid-June, right the way through to mid-September. So this property is completely booked out for that time. And here you can see this is on a 2-bedroom maximum. They have a sofa space in the living area, so you can actually sleep 4 people. It's got a sofa bed in the living space. Master bedroom has a double bed, and then it's got 2 singles in the 2nd bedroom. In terms of the amenities, you can see here things I was touching on earlier, things like having an iron in the room. These are all small little touches which do make a big, big difference. I've actually been in a rental property that didn't have a washer. So I had to take all my smelly beachwear back home, made sure they were dry, but it's not practical. It's nice to be able to offer a washer, a dryer, things like a parasol if you do have access to a roof terrace, etc. So always make sure that you're marketing your property with all your unique selling points. And obviously then you'll get feedback, and your feedback will really sort of push and drive things forward. So that's one property. And as you can see, as I said, it's rented for the summer, and it's going to do very, very well moving forward. It's quite a new development, but the location is absolutely spot on. Now, let's get rid of these pop-ups. There we go. Now, this is another Oasis beach. As you can see, the design is very, very similar, but the interior is using the dark wood rather than the light wood. But it's in a completely different location. But again, this property is rented completely for the summer. Now, this area is near Lasagna Boulevard, and anyone who has visited the area before hopefully would have heard of Lasagna. Lasagna Boulevard is one of the biggest shopping centers in the whole of Spain. It's, I think, 3rd biggest. It's definitely the biggest in the region. And it has everything that you would expect in terms of clothes shops, restaurants, computer games, you name it. It's great for kids if you want to while away. And in fact, many do a Sunday afternoon if the weather is poor. If it's raining, for instance, most people would then go to Lasagna Boulevard. So you can see here then that this is in a very sort of similar context as to Oasis Beach 8. This is a penthouse. And again, you've got some fantastic shots of the property. It markets well because it looks clean, it looks contemporary, it looks modern, so it grabs your eye. So that's one property. Now here we have another one, which is Green Hills, and I will show you why, and I'm sure you'll agree, and you'll probably point out, this is very similar in its outlook. Contemporary design, very clean, very modern, easy to maintain. So we haven't got lots of soft furnishings which can harbor dust and dirt. It's very easy for, to keep up with the maintenance of this property. And I think the great thing about this property is it has a huge terrace. And for a lot of people, when they come over on holiday, they want to spend the majority of the time outside. It's the whole attraction of having a property over here in Spain. So you can see the design is a little bit similar to what we've just seen, but still contemporary in its design. And then with some fantastic views on a very good size shaded terrace. You have access to an indoor spa, which has a gym. So you have a sauna facilities as well, but you have to bear in mind, the more facilities you have on site, the more your communal fees will be. But with that said, the more you'll be able to charge in terms of your rental per day. Golf course is close by, and that's the outside of Lasagna Boulevard. So 2 quite different properties, but both really ticking the right box. Now, a lot of people would actually sort of say, well, is it better to go for an apartment, or is a villa good, or, shall I go for a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? And I will say everything on a case-by-case basis. Now, traditionally, most people find the most success on a 2-bed, 2-bath setup. They will have a sofa bed in the living space just to give that extra functionality if needed. But a 3-bedroom, really, you then need to have maybe a family of 5 or a family of 6, or even 2 families who want to possibly share whilst on holiday. So in my general outlook of how I know the market to be, a 2-bed, 2-bath is usually sufficient enough and rents fantastically well. And that's a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. You can get 2-bed, 2-bath bungalows. You can get small townhouses which have 2 bedrooms, but I feel an apartment is easy to maintain. It's easy to keep an apartment secure whilst you're not in it. You know, you have intercom systems, it's in a gated community, just for peace of mind. So that's good. And also you're going to get the same rental yield. So you could have a fantastic townhouse on 2 floors, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, but you're going to command the same rental yield if you had a smaller apartment. This is on the focus of that you're buying a property for rentals, but if you're buying a property for personal use as well, obviously it stands to reason that you'll be going for something that you enjoy that could potentially rent as well. So my personal outlook on that would be keep with a 2-bed, 2-bath. If you want to go a little bit further inland and you decide to go for a villa with its own pool and you're going to use that to, you know, to obviously rent to the general public whilst you're not in it, just expect that that villa will obviously command more on a daily rate, but maybe rented less frequently. So it doesn't mean that the property can't be rented. It doesn't mean that the property doesn't stand a chance of covering its own face with regards to community costs. Well, maybe not community costs, but definitely things like council tax and your utility bills. But just don't expect it to be rented to the same frequency as apartments that are very central, very close to the beach, and within walking distance to most bars and restaurants. A lot of people do not want to drive. They want to just leave all their worries about driving at home. They want to just come over and have everything within walking distance. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to have a very, very quick look at, and this is a very brief rental simulation. Now, this rental simulation that I'm going to show you is very general and quite vague. Now, I do apologize for that, and it's just purely because I don't want to be too specific, as each property will be completely different, will command a different cost, and it will also have different management fees depending on the management company you choose. But hopefully, again, this will give you a good idea and a nice foundation moving forward. So a property like the ones I've just shown you, I know typically rent in June, July and August for the fees and the amounts you see there. So 2,000 up until sort of July and August, around about 3,000 euros. So you're looking at, for the summer season, which is from June to September, around about 10,000 euros on an annual basis. And that's just during the summer. Now, obviously just during the summer is where you're going to get a lot of your business. If you do decide to rent on a long-term basis, you may even command 10,000 euros in a year. And that's the main reason why a lot of people decide to rent just during the holiday season, because it then frees up the property for themselves to use and friends and family as well. So if, let's say, for instance, it wasn't rented every single day, which we don't anticipate it will, you know, we're also going to need days where it's going to need to be emptied for properties to be cleaned. Maybe flights are, you know, one leaving on a Monday, the next person coming in on a Wednesday. Let's say, for instance, we only generate 8,000 euros. That's being, you know, having a conservative figure. And again, from October to December, around about 4,500 euros. From January to May, again, the same. This is then commanding around about 9,000 euros, and we know that it's not going to be rented every single day. But if we be conservative with our costs and say it's around about 4,500 euros, that then gives you a gross income of just over 12,000 euros, 12,500 euros. Now we have to look at what we need to take out of that cost. We have management fees. Management fees will vary and they will range. They can be anywhere from 1,500 euros, as you can see. Now that type of cost is where you're not paying the management team to do the cleaning for you, then just offering a very basic service in terms of promoting the property. They're going to come over, they're going to take photos, they're going to do all the very basic things that need to be done in order to get the property out there for people to see. Some management companies will charge a higher fee, but they will incorporate the cleaning as well. They will also make sure that all of your safety equipment, i.e. fire blankets, smoke alarms, all of these things are actually maintained. And if they are due to expire, they will make sure it's replaced. So it gives you peace of mind. So please do not quote me on this figure. It will vary. You've also got community fees. Community fees will vary from 400 to 600 euros on a yearly basis. And your council tax, roughly the same. Again, your community fees will go up dependent on the facilities on site. You then have your utility bills. Now, the most expensive utility bill that you can expect to pay is your water, and that's due to the sanitation and the lack of rainfall. So they have a slightly higher tax on water, but with more and more properties actually becoming energy efficient, and also with boilers becoming energy efficient, that cost is slowly coming down. Electricity and Wi-Fi, all of these things are incorporated within your utility bills. Again, if you're going for a fast internet access and you're arranging for clients to have UK TV or English TV, American TV, whatever it may be, then that price point will change. And then I've also dropped in €1,000 for miscellaneous. Now, miscellaneous can be anything from the cooker door not deciding to open and you need a replacement, or somebody's just thrown red wine all over the sheets and completely wrecked it, and you don't want to take it out of their deposit because you're a nice person, so you decide to buy a replacement yourself. It could be a whole multitude of different things. So we just have a contingency of €1,000 just as a miscellaneous. Now, that gives you roughly around €5,000 as your gross figure. And as you can see, your income will definitely outweigh your outgoings. So it is worth doing if you maybe just want to have use of the property between sort of 2 and 4 weeks of the year. So hopefully this gives you a good idea as to whether or not it's feasible. And again, if you have a particular property in mind, then we can really start doing some number crunching. We can look at properties that are very, very close, what the yields are for that particular property, and work alongside you to make sure that it's viable and it's correct. So that's the way I would definitely go about doing your expenses with regards to just a very basic view. Now, one thing I want to just quickly cover is the taxes with the property. So most people will be non-residents, as they will be living in their country of origin, and they'll be using the property between 2 and 4 weeks in a year. So if you are planning on spending, let's say, less than 180 days in the year, that would make you non-residents, you're probably going to be in and around about the 24% tax bracket. Now, that seems like an incredibly high figure, 24%. Now, it is an incredibly high figure, and those taxes are due at the end of the year in December. But please always speak to someone who can advise you correctly with regards to taxes. There's lots of ways you can offset costs of the property itself in terms of what you're having what you had to buy a new couch that year, things like costs of energy certificates that can be offset from your yearly income. And also, if you've got your property on finance, that could also be offset as well. So there's lots of ways that you can make the whole sort of repayment of your income on taxes a little bit less woeful and more appealing for you. Also, as a side note as well, you are allowed by law to charge a €250 deposit from every client that decides to rent a property from you. So don't feel like if there's any damages, it has to come from your pocket. A good management company, or if you're deciding to do this on your own as a job, then you are by law allowed to command €250 a year, per client, in order to cover your expenses. So that pretty much sums up rentals, and hopefully I've gone through and answered a lot of the questions for you. I would say if there's anything that, if regards to you've got a property for rent, or you're wanting to have a little bit more information from the likes of myself, please get in contact with me and I'll be more than happy to go through things on a one-to-one basis with you. But just before we wrap up, has anyone got any questions? Okay, I don't think we have any questions at the moment. Okay, fantastic. It either means I've bored you all senseless or I've done my job incredibly well and I've answered all your questions for you. So, any need for a yearly inspection? If there's any need for a yearly inspection, no, there isn't a need for a yearly inspection. What happens is once you go to your town hall and you apply for your touristic license, it will have an expiry date. And it varies from location to location. With some locations, it's on a yearly basis, and with some locations, it's on a 5-year basis. So I would say that's when they actually will go over to the property, make sure things are in the condition it's meant to be in, before issuing the license again. It's a very, very quick and simple procedure, but it's not yearly. Well, it can be yearly, but it's done on a decided basis, and that will be with the town hall. Was there another? I just saw another question there. Let's have a look. Okay, I don't think there's any questions at all. I think there was a question. I think taxes are high. That can make a difference. As I said, with regards to the taxes on your rental income, please speak with a qualified tax specialist who will be able to give you ways and incentives for you to minimize how much you pay in tax. What I'm giving you is a very blanket statement of 24%, but there are so many ways. And if you work with a good accountant, it would all obviously be legal. They will find the best ways for you to offset as much of the cost as possible, so you pay as little tax as possible. And I say that can be down to wear and tear. That can be down to some of the costs that you're incurring if if you're buying a property with a mortgage. There's lots of ways. So if you want me to put you in contact with someone, I'll be more than happy to do so. But they can discuss that in a little bit more detail with you. All right. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much is it from myself. Again, my email address is just below my face, and feel free to send me an email, and I will respond in kind. And anyone who has any questions but wants to talk privately, please do not hesitate to get in contact. But for now, I wish you all a fantastic day, a fantastic weekend. Join us tomorrow when we're going to actually go on a bit of a tour of a luxury property, which I'm going to be doing, which I can't wait. So join us tomorrow for that if you're interested in having a look at, well, definitely for me, how the other half live. And it will be a pleasure to have you all on board again. Take care. Bye-bye.